Hey y'all, how you doing today? Welcome back to my channel. It's Chris McCallum, aka Battle Axe from the forums. What we got going on today here, hope you like my production so far. Got kicked up the lighting a notch or two, put some halogens up, that kind of stuff. What we got going on here today is we're going to be talking about skid plates for the belly landing planes. Now what I have over here is my Sportster, this little hot rod right here, pretty big plane. But what I'm going to be doing with it is putting landing gear. I'm going to be putting floats on it, and it'll also be a belly lander. It's going to be my winter plane. It's going to be something I'm going to be using on the snow, and also the water as well in the spring, that kind of thing, as long as it lasts that long. But there will be some belly landings, so the snow tends to be pretty rough on all these materials, like the foam board, the poster board. It just pulls it right off. So what we're going to be doing is looking at skid plates. Now, I remember being in the forums and talking to some guys about different skid plates, what they're using, all that kind of stuff. We all like to share tips and tricks. There was a guy that told me something about his name is Steve Fox, actually. He told me something about using plastic milk jug plastic. So if you get like the 4-liter or 5-liter jugs, however it works out, it's just like a flexible sort of slippery sort of plastic that's pretty thin. What I did is I was in Walmart, and we actually found placemats for $2 a piece. It comes out in a placemat size sheet, and it's made out of the same plastic. So the cool thing is you're not cutting out sections of milk jug and trying to place it on your plane and section it together. This stuff comes in like a sheet. It's probably about 20 inches by about 16 inches, or 24 inches by 16 inches, however big they come. And I just cut out a couple pieces. I've actually put the skid plates on my floats as well. So the floats themselves, of course, they're made out of foam board, that kind of stuff, but they also have the plastic on there, and it's nice and slippery, it's paintable, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty easy to do, and I'm going to show you really quickly how to do it. So on your airplane, you're going to be building the belly lander, however it works out, or even just for extra protection, crash protection, that kind of stuff. It's entirely up to you. But what I've done is I cut out the sections that are going to fit on my plane. Now, I do have a slot in the bottom here for the landing gear. There's one back here for the back end of the floats as well. So I don't really want to cover the entire bottom with it, but I do want to give that little bit of extra protection. On the Sportster here, I did replace the paper here with poster board, give it a little bit of extra strength and rigidity. But on the other side of the coin, the skid plates are definitely going to help as well. So with these skid plates, they're going to kind of go on the bottom. I've got one that comes in behind the landing gear slot, and one that'll come up in front. It's just going to take that little bit of abuse. So first thing, without further ado, we're going to, like I said, we cut out our pieces to whatever size you need. If you want to cover the entire bottom of your plane with it, that's absolutely fine. I really don't think I'm going to need it, but most of the abuse is going to happen up in the front here. So I'm going to actually split these two pieces on either side of that slot. So I got my pieces cut. I don't want to overlap my slot for my landing gear or anything like that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to place it on there, and then I'm just going to mark right at the top where it comes to. So given that, line it up, get it nice and centered, just like this. And then I'm going to take the back end of the skid plate, and I'm just going to mark on the bottom of the plane where it's going to land. That'll give me a reference point for where I'm going to do all the epoxy and stuff like that. I don't want to overlap my epoxy past it. I don't want to get too little and then put it on and decide I have to take it off because I need more or anything like that. So again, on the front, line it up with the front of the slot, put it on there, and give it a mark. Now the first thing I want to do before I actually apply any epoxy or anything like that is I'm going to actually rough up the surface a little bit, just to kind of give the epoxy something to bite into. So not only on the poster board, sometimes you got a shiny side, sometimes you got a rough side on your poster board. I would put the rough side down, shiny side up. The hot glue tends to work better with the shiny side towards the foam. And then for something like this, you kind of want to rough it up. It is going to take abuse and stuff like that. So you kind of want to just make sure that it's going to stick there. It's kind of like scoring your servos before you glue them in on your plane and stuff like that. And again, it's going to help keep that longevity. You're not going to find that your skid plate's going to be peeling off on its own and that kind of thing, right? So rough that up. Same thing with the surfaces here. This plastic is actually pretty easy to rough up. You take a look, you can see how it was shiny. Just going to go in both directions, maybe swirls. Just kind of scratch it up, get it going. give it something to bite into. I'm going to do this one here. And again, we're going to go over it. Just give it a little bit of a scuff there. Perfect. So now we're going to move on to our epoxy side. The epoxy itself, it's a 2-part 5-minute epoxy. So it's not going to take that long to dry, but we will be taping it down just to kind of give it that half-hour cure time. So I want to dollop out enough. I am going to spread it pretty thin on the bottom of the plane, so there's not a lot of gaps, bubbling and warping and that kind of stuff underneath the plane between the poster board and the skid plate. But I also don't want to run out either. So some people get particular, they like to weigh out their epoxy and make sure that's even, I've never really had an issue just by going by eyeball here. I'm going to go ahead, mix it up, make sure it's thoroughly mixed. Kind of like spreading peanut butter on a sandwich. For those of you that like peanut butter. The guys down in Australia, they like their Vegemite, so you can kind of go with that. Whatever reference you want to play around with. So here I'm just going to take a good whack of the 5-minute epoxy and just start at one end and then just kind of spread it around. You can see you want to get it all the way out to the edges and all the way out to your mark lines. You don't want any gaps or anything like that. Get it right out there. Make sure you're spreading it out nice and thin. The nice thing about 5-minute epoxy over hot glue is that you get a little bit of time to kind of maneuver it around. It's not going to cure up right away. And where hot glue through the plastic, it's actually going to cure up pretty quick. The plastic tends to cool the hot glue really quickly, so you don't really, like, if you really got to hammer it down the first time, right? So I got my piece. This is the guy I've scuffed up. Make sure it's the right one where my marks, so everything lines up. Lay it down just like I did before I marked it. Put it on there. And then just to kind of give it some rollout factor, just kind of play with it on the table. Roll it out. Just get any air bubbles out of there. That kind of stuff. Roll it out, and it should be good. Now, if you have a lot of curve to your plane, like I will have on the front end of my plane here, you will probably need some masking tape just to kind of hold it down while it does cure. Kind of helps out a little bit. Making sure it's all nice and centered. The more prep work you do here in this step, a lot easier it is to deal with later on. So just in case, I'm not going to take any chances. Usually when I walk away and I come back and things get shifted or lifted up, that kind of stuff, I'm just going to go ahead and throw some masking tape on there. Just kind of hold it down. Nothing too aggressive. Super simple. Put the pressure down on the plate itself first so you get a good stick there. Even pressure on both sides. And it shouldn't move while you're sticking down the tape. Just take your time. Again, it's 5-minute epoxy. You got a little bit of time to play with it. So let's move on to the front one. I think I might have enough epoxy here to play with it. So again, take a look. Starting. Oh, probably don't have enough epoxy here. See how much I can scrape out. Yeah, you're getting there. This is a pretty neat trick. I actually tried this skid plate thing on my Spitfire, and it worked out really well. It didn't take any damage in that area whatsoever. And the cool part I liked about it too is that it's super cheap and it's super easy. I'm all about the economics of this this hobby. It can get pretty expensive. So anything that helps out the pocketbook is a friend of mine for sure. And I really got to thank Steve for the tip on this one. Like I said, he uses milk jug plastic, which is what I used on my Spitfire, and it worked out great. And when I found this stuff here, it was just by happen chance that I was in Walmart and I saw these things. Of course, being in like the kitchen department with the woman, that kind of thing, and it felt like the same plastic, and it actually feels a little